Hey, hi everybody. Welcome, Russell Moore back at you. Yeah, dedicated to financial literacy. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to encourage everyone, please hit this subscribe button and notify. And if you like the content, give me a thumbs up. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, um, I just wanted to talk real briefly about the housing market. Um, a lot of things are being said. You got Dave Ramsey saying, "Oh, we're not up. The housing market is not heading for a crash. Relax, everybody. Don't be emotional." Then you got others saying that we are in the midst of a crash and that the housing market is the bubble's busting. To me personally, I think you got to kind of look at both sides and not be extreme on either side. I'm not on the camp that says that we're never going to have a housing crash and that we aren't in trouble. But I'm also not way over here on the other side saying that get ready. The housing crash has already started and it's push. Um, first off, I want to say I'm not giving real estate advice. That is not what I'm doing. I'm not a real estate expert, and I'm not going to try to act like a one. I'm just a guy out here that is doing his homework though, reading. What do I always say on my channel? Hey, if you don't learn, you don't earn. Right now, one of the reasons why you haven't seen me on putting on content recently is I've been studying a lot for a couple of certifications and stuff. Um, because what I don't want to do is I never want to put out content if I don't know what I'm talking about. And I don't think anyone should if you really care about people. I started this channel just for my friends, people in my church. People were asking me certain questions because of the pandemic. I thought, oh, this is a good idea. Just give a YouTube, send it out to my friends. But then people started noticing in it, and I've been getting emails and texts from people, hey, you ought to keep up the channel. So that's kind of the reason why I'm doing it. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. I just want to make a few comments and then I'm out of here. Okay. Number one, concerning the housing market. Uh, and most people know this, but it's just good to reiterate it. The feds, okay, the Federal Reserve, yeah, they boosted, they increased the rates, the interest rates, the first quarter of March. I said they would, maybe about a year ago. Look at some of my old videos. Everybody was talking about the Feds would not raise the rates till late 23 or 24. And I said, but by the first quarter of 2022, those were my words, the Feds would raise the rates. Okay. So, and they did in March, right at the end of the first quarter. So another month, and I would have been incorrect. But at the end of March, they raised the rates, just as I had said. Now, so that's one thing. When that happened, the mortgage rates jumped, correct? So now we're looking at about 6%. If you get a home right now, it's going to cost you about to purchase a loan, to get a loan, you're going to be paying about 6% on your interest rate of that loan. Okay? So that's 3% difference than just a few 6 months ago. I bought a house in November 2021, our interest rate 2.7. Literally a few months later, actually 2 weeks after we closed on our property, 2 weeks, the mortgage rate had jumped to 3%. And now it's at 6%. Okay. So the Fed's raising the rate affected the mortgage rate, but not just mortgage, also your credit cards. Look at your credit cards, especially most of the credit cards are not a fixed rate. It's an adjustable. So some of you are paying over 20% for your interest rate on a credit card and you don't even know it. So you might want to transfer it to a lesser credit card with a lesser interest rate. Okay. Now, that's number one. Number two, inflation. Everybody's talking about inflation. I also said back in about a year ago, a little over a year ago, that inflation was not transitory. In other words, it wasn't going to be temporary, that it was going to go up and it was going to continue to go up for a while. Okay. Deflation, we probably will see, maybe, possibly, by the end of this year, early 2023, where some things will begin to deflate. But there's still other areas. I'm looking at earnings right now. This is July, and I'm looking at all the earnings of all the different companies. This is earnings season, right? And the earnings is not looking good for many companies. Walmart just put out a very disappointing report, their earnings report, and I think that's saying something about retail. So that what does that mean? Consumers are pulling back on their spending. Why? Inflation. I did a video not too long ago, I believe it was in June, and was talking about how things have went up. The prices of everything has went up. I wish I would have brought my card with all of these items, all the food. We all know gas is up. Although in the last couple of weeks we've seen a little bit of a reduction. That's good, but it's still not good enough. Okay, so everything is up. Inflation. So it wasn't transitory, as a lot of experts had predicted. So now that's the Fed. One. Number two is inflation's up. All right. Number three, I think people don't think about is jobs. The jobless claims, and really in unemployment. If you look at those two things, to me, we're still not at a danger point. Every time I look around, I go around, you drive around, and I live in Southern California. Every time you look around, you see hiring now, hiring, looking. People are still hiring. And until I see unemployment begin to get on the rise, we're at around 3%. When unemployment, if unemployment gets to the point where it's at 6, 7%, then I will truly say we're in a recession. I know everyone says proof of a recession is 2 negative quarters of GDP, gross domestic products. When GDP has two negative, we've already had one. First quarter was a negative. Second quarter hasn't come out yet, but it will. End of June ended the second quarter for GDP. So soon we'll get those numbers. I believe it's going to be negative as well. So officially they will say we are in a recession. Soft recession, but we're in a recession. But you really want to look at the jobs. How are we doing with jobs? When people start getting laid off. Now, a lot of big companies, especially tech, are beginning to freeze on hiring. They're beginning to freeze on hiring. Their bonuses are beginning bonuses and raises there's a reduction in that, and then but when they start laying off, having massive layoffs at different companies, I'm not talking about one or two companies. I'm talking about multiple companies begin to lay off. That's when I believe the housing market is really going to be affected. Because if you don't have a job, you can't pay your mortgage. Correct? As long as you have a position, a job, and you're still making that money, you'll be able to pay, people will be able to pay that mortgage, especially if you're in a fixed loan. And that's the difference. That's why people are comparing this to 2008. 2008, you had a bunch of people buying homes that couldn't afford them. So these loans were fraudulent. They were not proven. The people were not proven that they could handle the payments. After 5 years, that adjustable rate kicked in, and then their houses were upside down, and as far as their mortgage, so they were being asked to pay more than they could afford. That's what happened. After that, laws were changed. It is not as easy to get a home. You have to go through some hoops to qualify after that, since the 2008 crash, recession, the Great Recession. So people that have homes now, trust me, and many people learned from that not to get an adjustable loan, but get a fixed rate. I myself, we have a 30 fix at 2.7. You know, now will the prices go down? That's another thing. Will housing prices go down? Come on, gang. For the last couple of years, if you bought a house, you were pretty much in a bidding war. Most people throughout the country. That bidding war caused you to have to pay above asking price. Some people I've heard of $200,000 above asking price. A person wanted that home that bad. The family wanted the home that bad. Well, if the prices drop as a result of the rates going up, if the prices drop, look where they're dropping from. They're dropping from being overpriced down to where they should be. That's not called a crash. And I really think we got to remember that. Another thing that I don't think people are looking at is sellers. What is the sentiment of sellers right now? And this is where I'm saying I believe in looking at data. Okay, I do. I look at data. But some people are relying on Zillow and Redfin. Come on, gang. And some of these government websites, which they're going to be pro this administration. They're not going to let anything crazy get out there. So there's going to be some exaggeration. There's going to be some things that they're not telling you. Okay. But you can look at this from a common sense standpoint. If rates go up, people are going to pull back from buying, right? That's common sense. It's like if you and your wife go into the store. You and your wife go into the store and you see something that you like. And how many times have you heard your wife or your girlfriend say this? How many times have you had guys? How many times? Or women, mostly women will say this, but they'll say, I like that, but I'm going to wait for the price to come down. I believe they're going to put this on sale. And so they'll hold back on purchasing that item because it's too high. It's the same thing with the housing market right now. If people are pulling back, it's because their interest rates are up. Well, when interest rates go up, guess what? Some people being priced out. They could qualify for a certain amount. But once the rate went up, now they need to qualify for a higher amount. And some of them were priced out at that point. So that's you got those people. Then you got some that said, you know what? Because the rates are gone up, the housing prices are going to go down. And that's not necessarily true, but that's the sentiment. So people start saying, you know what? I'm going to wait 6 months. I'm going to wait 8 months. I'm going to wait a year before I purchase a home. And so that's the sentiment. That's the normal reaction to rate hikes. Okay, that's normal. All right, gang, that's normal. So they pull back. That's the buyers. But the sellers, what are the sellers thinking? Well, for one, most sellers were thinking, wow, people are crazy. I'm able to get 100,000, 70,000, 60,000, 30,000 above the asking price. I want you to listen to that for a minute. Above the asking price. The asking price was the price that they were happy with or what they could get for the market. The market value is my asking price. I'm going to get a nice profit. Anything above that is called gravy, icing on the cake. So when people are getting 50, 60,000 above the asking price, that's just gravy on top of their profit or what they were willing to sell it for. So now they're just going to say, you know what? I'm still going to stay. I'll drop it 20,000. I'll drop the asking price 10 or 15,000. Why? I'm still 30,000 above my asking price. So they're not going to budge. Many of the sellers are not going to budge. Or some of them will say, look, I was only going to sell because I could get these astronomical prices. But I didn't really need to sell. I think I'll stick it out. I've already paid my house off. I'm just paying taxes right now. So I'll just pull it off the market, delist it. What does that do when you take that house off? It lowers inventory. So even though we got buyers out there that are pulling back, you're going to have sellers that are pulling back. Now, there will be some sellers that stay out there. There's going to be an increase in sellers as well. But this whole thing about demand and inventory, which is a key, demand, inventory. Listen, I live in California. We have 44 million people here. Over 40 million people. We're already 2 million in the hole as far as inventory. I don't care what you say. Demand and inventory, that's not going to change much, at least for over a year. People are still buying homes here. Okay, so chill out. What we want to be concerned about, though, is that interest rate going up to 8, 9%. I heard one of his channels talking about it going up to 9%. But to me, he gave a horrible example, though. He said if the house is 500,000 K and last year was 3%, but now it's 6%. So he gave these scenarios on how much your mortgage would cost. But what he didn't factor in, as the rates go up, people are going to pull back from wanting to buy those homes. So that will force the seller to reduce their price. So at 6%, that house will probably be, instead of 500K, around 440, 450, okay, 470. If it goes to 9%, it's not good. That house is not going to sell at 500K. Trust me. It's not going to sell at that price. It's going to be down to 500. It's going to be down to 460, 430, 420. That's what's going to happen. All right. So let's not panic, you guys. Let's not panic. If it's your time to buy a house, but if it's you got the money, you've saved the money, hey, get into the market. You get a good deal, buy your home. If you feel like they're too high, too expensive, and that they will come down to a more uh, a better price, then wait. Then wait. But there's a great chance that those interest rates will hit 8%, 9%, 10% by next year. I want to say that. And the question that you want to ask yourself is, will those housing prices drop enough? Will they drop 40, 50%? Because that's what's going to need to happen. If rates go up to 9, 10%, you're going to need the housing prices to drop 50%. And I don't see that happening. I really don't. 20, 30, maybe. Most of them are going to be 10, 15%. All right. So hang in there. If you find a good deal, grab your home. Again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I did just tell you, didn't I? Let me retract that. No. Hey, look at your finances. The key, though, I will say this: while you're waiting, make sure you get out of debt and stay out of debt. All right. That's my last point, that you get out of debt and stay out of debt. If credit card debt, I guarantee you every month that bill is, look at your interest on your bill. Look at the interest. It'll make you want to slap somebody. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Don't panic. This is not, I doubt if this is a crash, but I wouldn't lean so far as to say that we shouldn't be concerned, Dave Ramsey. Come on now. All right. I know you have a lot of experience, but I am leaning more towards Dave Ramsey and his advice. All right. Have a great day. And